Hello friends, so welcome back for the discussion of remaining questions of GS paper 2 mains 2022. So today we will be taking up some very interesting questions which appeared at UPSC in 2022 mains. To start with, I am taking up a 10 marker, which means you have to write the answer in 150 words. Discuss the role of National Commission for Backward Classes in the wake of its transformation from a statutory body to a constitutional body. So, keywords here are what the examiner is expecting from you, that you can somewhere put it up, that transformation, change from a statutory body to a constitutional body, whether it has really amounted to some great change in its functioning, in its role, and what implications are for the state governments, what are the implications for the central government, inclusion and exclusion of OBCs, backward classes, will be now decided by whom, okay? So, if I talk of, this is about welfare. See children, when we talk of National Commission for Backward Classes, National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, this is all associated with welfare measures which the Indian Constitution has provided for. Let it be Article 15, let it be Article 16, that is under fundamental rights, where positive discrimination has been somewhere allowed, and let it be part 16th of the Indian Constitution, which we generally say this part is dedicated to welfare dimensions only, okay. So, if I talk of the articles which you can mention in it, then you will say, sir, Article 338B, which will come through an amendment when it will be made a constitutional body. Then Article 342A, you can talk of Article 15, you can talk of Article 16. Anyway, after a brief discussion, I will give you the complete structure, that what could have been the sentence 1, sentence 2, and then the main body, what should have been there, what should have been the conclusion of it, so that you will have a fair idea that how do we write an answer to such questions. Anyway, the first thing that you need to address in your discussion is, what is the significance of this transformation from a statutory to a constitutional, okay. So, till the time something is statutory, of course, it is having stability. You have questions in your examination, right from pre they ask you which of the following is our statutory, non-statutory, and you must have heard of this discussion in regard to CBI, ED and other things, okay. So, non-statutory, though it has been, CBI is seen established under Delhi Police Special Establishment Act, okay. So, but still it is not by a separate statute that it has been created, and that is why autonomy of it is always questioned. I have used the word autonomy, okay. So, if it is a statutory arrangement, then also it will have autonomy, but what will be the change when it will become constitutional body? So, somebody may say that there may be that control in regard to certain things of inclusion and exclusion may be moving from government to parliament, okay. So, somewhere this particular thing may be coming into play when I make it a constitutional body, that may be there. So, this we will see that what information you need to first of all comprehend. Constitutional body simply means a more stable arrangement, a more autonomous arrangement, a well guided arrangement in which the supervision of parliament will always be there. A well established arrangement where parliamentarians will have more say in the discharge of functioning, or the commission if we have created, okay, then it will definitely be having its responsibility towards whom? Towards the parliament. Okay. Like I ask you a question about CAG. He is responsible to whom? Submitting his report to president is fine, but responsible to whom? And you say a constitutional body, so definitely should be towards the parliament. Use that understanding. Anyway, so when I talk of role of National Commission for Backward Classes, if you have an idea of the role of National Commission for Scheduled Castes, National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, something you could have written. But here, that is a different focus. They are saying how this transformation has helped. Okay. So, when I actually come into it, then I say that what is the background to it. See children, in regard to backward classes, previously two advisory commissions, Kalekar Commission and then Mandal Commission. Kalekar Commission in way back in 1950s and Mandal Commission in 1970s. That you need to be remembering something about that. Supreme Court in Indira Sahani case, okay, asked government that why don't you have an established arrangement, a body which should look into the issues and affairs of welfare of backward classes. See, genuine also, when Constitution has already provided for National Commission for Scheduled Castes, and there right from the beginning, if I say, it was not National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, there was a special officer in regard to for the welfare of scheduled tribes was established. Later on, we created a separate body for National Commission for Scheduled Tribes also in 1990s only. So anyway, focus here. So Supreme Court asked that please go with the establishment of a body which will look into the affairs related to welfare measures for backward classes. What will define backwardness, which class shall be included, and if any class has to be excluded, how it need to be excluded. So government, under the directions on Indira Sahani case, finally came out with the Act, National Commission for Backward Classes, Act of 1993. Fine, they came out with it. This commission came into picture and started functioning as a statutory body. But then in 2018, we repealed that particular act, and in place we came out through a constitutional amendment and amended included Article 338B and 348A by amending the Constitution, so that socially and educationally backward classes, for them also a constitutional provision in regard to their welfare can be carried out. When I further understand this, then it will be the same arrangement, the structure. So from here only you can talk about National Commission for Scheduled Tribes also, Scheduled Caste also. It is the similar structure: chairperson, vice chairperson and 3 other members. Okay? That is there. Now, differences from previous arrangement: transfer of the power of the central government to the parliament. So, parliament will be appointing as the appropriate authority to amend the list of backward classes. No discretion of government to include a class in the list. So, what it will be removing? So, autonomy in various matters and also in dealing with the complaints. Development provisions for development of socially and educationally backward classes, and then grievance redressal of backward classes. They said that it will be improving in this. Now, constitutional status, when I say, then you need to understand the transfer of power from the government to the parliament reduces the state's role to just providing advice, which will not have any binding or anyone, is a very huge drawback. It is an understood fact that the states would have a better understanding and knowledge regarding the communities and classes of that particular state in the social context, and excluding the state from the process of inclusion and exclusion of castes from the backward classes list and centralizing the entire process does not seem to have any reasonable backing. So this is how it is. So that's why it is in red. I have provided for it that it is giving you only background information, background knowledge, so that next time if by chance a question comes in term touching federal one, so you can handle it. Okay. The bill is silent on the aspect of the binding effect of the governor's recommendations on the president, does not discuss about any of the nuances involved in identification of backward classes. That is, it does not specify any special method which would help in dealing with such variety of castes which are intertwined between the different classes according to their social context. Okay. For example, a caste group in a backward area of Andhra Pradesh would fall under scheduled caste, and the same caste group might come under the list of other backward classes in Karnataka. So they are saying you have not come out with some procedure, some process. Okay. Now, misuse of powers. Giving NCBC such autonomy gives greater scope for misuse of powers. Okay. Now, no explicit criteria which specifies how a backward class should be identified. Giving constitutional recognition to NCBC is a forward step for the welfare of SCBC. It has led to usurpation of the powers by the center to classify backward classes. So this is, you may include it. I am just giving you entire background knowledge, and within a minute I will give you what should have been the body. Vote bank politics should give way to value based politics, so that truly backward sections of society will get the benefit of reservation. So now if I come and say what should have been your answer to it, okay, and I say that this should be the introduction, this should be the body, and this should be the conclusion. Okay. Before I start, have a quick look again on the points which you should be having at the back of your mind when you are writing an answer to it. Talk about Indira Sahani case, and if you can talk about Kalekar Commission, or you can talk about Mandal Commission, because that is where the idea of focus on welfare of backward classes came into fore. That something where can be addressed, okay, and talked about. Then talk about this 1993 Act and 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act, where it has provided. This should be at the back of your mind. Commission consists of, this may not be required. Now, this is an important point, transfer of the power of the central government to the parliament, and how the states may have the issues in regard to it. Okay. Please take it as, when you start the answer, the initial point which you will be writing will be about, that is introduction, will be about let's say 25 words or 30 words, and it will simply talk about that National Commission for Backward Classes to establish a constitutional mechanism for welfare has been accorded with a constitutional status in place of a previously statutory status. Okay. A constitutional body becomes responsible to Parliament, and thus in regard to inclusion and exclusion of castes to the list of backward classes, now will have Parliament's intervention or Parliament's control. This is the introduction. Once again I am coming with the introduction. National Commission for Backward Classes happens to be an arrangement to promote welfare of backward classes on the principles enumerated in the Indian Constitution. Okay. Its transformation from a statutory arrangement to a constitutional body simply provides for the essential idea of parliamentary control or increased parliamentary control in regard to welfare questions of OBCs or other backward classes, okay, socially and educationally backward classes, correct? Then what will be the main body? Main body should always be having beta the discussion. You need to have the essential discussion in the main body. Now come out that the statute in regard to, because it is talking from statutory arrangement to constitutional. So you are under an obligation to talk about where the statutory or when the statutory status came into being, and then what were the problems if you want to write, but because it is 150 words you may not have that liberty to just continue on that, but yes, some mention is must. Then in the main body you will say that the issue of welfare of other backward classes has remained a point of discussion right from 1950s, when Kalekar Commission was appointed in this regard, and then Mandal Commission in 1970s, which made its recommendations for taking focused measures for the welfare of other backward classes, that is not included or to be distinguished from SCs and STs. Okay. Then you say Indira Sahani case. In Indira Sahani versus Union of India case, Supreme Court, while deciding upon the issue of reservation and other things, also asked the government to come with a stable arrangement that will look into the affairs of other backward classes. So parameters, how a caste shall be included, how it will be excluded, what will be the say of state government, who will make the recommendations, something like that. Okay. So what is the main body you are talking about? You will talk about that this, it has been in focus right from, so don't say it is something recent only, right from 1950s when Kalekar Commission was appointed, and then in 1970s when Mandal Commission was appointed, and it is the recommendations of Mandal Commission which were implemented, okay, by VP Singh government, and that led to a huge, okay, confusion in regard to the quantum of reservation, and in that Indira Sahani versus Union of India case happens to be the milestone. In this case only, Supreme Court asked Union government to establish statutory or any other body through which the mechanism for welfare of other backward classes in terms of exclusion and inclusion could be procedurized, and the arbitrariness in this regard could be done away with. Okay. So National Commission for Backward Classes came through NCBC Act 1993. But this coming of this act somewhere, however, has not been able to satisfy on certain dimensions, as it has been used, the list has been used more as a mechanism to appease the vote bank. So groups which can amount to the vote bank of any party. Thus, in 2018, a bill to amend the Constitution, CAA, Constitutional Amendment Act, okay, Constitutional Amendment Bill, SCAB, was introduced with the purpose of giving National Commission for Backward Classes a constitutional status by amending, or that is insertion of Article 338B, that provides for the National Commission for Backward Classes consisting of a chairperson, vice chairperson and 3 other members, like other commissions provided in Part 16th of the Indian Constitution. Okay. Then you proceed further that with it, following things have actually come into fore, or this has happened. Now, the decisions of inclusion and exclusion will definitely have the Parliament's intervention, which means a larger group will have authority over it, thereby increasing the process of democratic decision making in this regard. Further, constitutional status also gives stability to this entire idea of welfare of socially and educationally backward classes, and which will lead to budgetary allocations, which will lead to budgetary allocations justified on the grounds of positive discrimination, under Article 15 and 16th also certain provisions can be easily established as per the directives and spirit of the constitution only. Okay. So, now you are saying why a constitutional status? So, for this reason. However, now you will come, however, in this with this amendment, certain states have also said that this amendment has somewhere been an attempt to centralize the entire idea of welfare, and the central government is trying to have more say in this entire episode of decision making, and where the constitutional status ideally should have been for the purpose of welfare, but provisions in the bill have attempted to basically deprive states of coming out with final decisions and binding decisions for the inclusion and exclusion. Okay? So, that is where you will come out. And then in the conclusion, when you will come, you will say that for sure having a constitutional status somewhere has freed this issue from the issue of vote bank politics, and with a commission, as essentially it is said, autonomy is there from the decision making of political executive, as commission happens to be a mechanism to free decision making from political executive and to have it on the basis of merit. Okay. So, this is where you will proceed in this answering. So, answering this question requires 3-4 types of information, otherwise a good answer will not be possible for it. Now, you will say, if you want to write, but because if it would have been a 15 marker, then I would have preferred that you mention more about 338B and even 342A. Okay. So, 338 is nothing but about commission, its structure, its powers. So, if I say 338 for scheduled castes, 338A for scheduled tribes, and 338B for OBC, other backward classes, National Commission for backward classes, correct? 342 is regard to notification, for 341 for scheduled caste, 342 for scheduled tribes. So, 342A is regard to backward classes. Okay. But it will be beyond your scope. So, here we have concluded, when I have given you the body, there only you should talk it about. So, main body will have discussion from Kalekar Commission, discussion from Mandal Commission, only the names, nothing else. But then Indira Sahani case you should actually specifically mention, because it was in this light only that this statute was established and this body was provided. But then its working for over a decade somewhere always had questions that was it used by state governments or political parties as a way and mechanism to simply appease certain sections, and was it playing more divisive role in place of welfare.